So today at the farm stand they have beets for $1.50 a bunch. Can you believe it? $1.50 a bunch for fresh farm stand beets. I'm so excited. Local grown from farm to galley beets. And today we're going to take these beets and pickle them. Now once they're pickled, if you're a canner, you can can them, set them on your shelf. You can put them in your refrigerator. Well, they'll last up to 6 months. Now, they never last in my refrigerator for 6 months because, well, I eat them almost every day. So I'm really excited about this recipe because these are one of my favorite things to eat. So if you're ready, let's get started and pickle our beets. So I've got my beets all nice and scrubbed and cleaned. And now you have two choices. You can blanch these on the stovetop in water, or you can roast them in the oven. Both take about the same amount of time. Today, we're going to roast because I think roasting imparts a much better flavor in the overall product. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to roast. So let's roast. So I have some foil. I'm going to roast my beets. I'm going to do 2 beets per foil. And if they were smaller beets, you could do more, but I'm just going to do 2. And I'm going to cut off the ends. And I will tell you that I have an old cheap cutting board that I use for beets because if you like your cutting board and it's special to you, you don't want to stain it. And you also might want to wear gloves so you don't stain your fingers, but I wash my hands about 1,000 times a day, so I don't have to worry about that. I'm going to cut the ends off, put them in the foil, and then we'll get them roasted. But I just wanted to take a minute and tell you how fantastic beets are. Beets are rich in folate, vitamin B9, and this B9 helps cell growth and function. Folate plays a key role in controlling damaged blood vessels, which can reduce the risk of heart disease and stroke. They're just high in vitamin C and folate and nitrates. And all of these things help oxidize our body in this beautiful little beet. Now, I have loved beets my whole life. I think you know how when you go through life and there's things in parts of your life that you liked and then other parts that you got older and you didn't. And beets are one of those that I've loved my whole entire life. Now, I have my oven on 425. Again, I'm going to do 2 beets. I'm just going to add a little avocado oil, and you're better off with a high heat oil here. Some salt and pepper, and I'm doing my mixed blend pepper. Now, if I were cooking these beets to eat right away in a salad or maybe make some beet hummus with, I would cook these about 45 minutes. But for this, I want them to be just a hair underdone. So I want my knife to go through, but I want it to be just a little bit of resistance. So I'm going to pop these in my oven, 425, and we're going to check them in 30 minutes. So while our beets are roasting, we can get our brine going. And in this brine, I'm going to do a little bouquet of some pickling spices. And I will tell you that the 2 most common things in pickled beets are whole allspice berries and whole cinnamon sticks. I kind of add a few things just because I can't really help myself. So, but if you're only going to do 2, do these 2. Do your whole allspice and do your whole cinnamon sticks. Not ground cinnamon, not ground allspice, but this needs to be whole. So I'm going to do 2. This one's kind of small, so I'm just going to go ahead and throw that one in there. And my allspice, I'm going to say a teaspoon of the allspice berries. Now, if I was stopping here, I'd probably do a few more of the allspice berries. And you don't have to get technical and measure. You can just eyeball it. And because I have some star anise. So I'm just going to throw some of this star anise in there. I've also got some whole cloves. So And I'm not going to do as many cloves, obviously, as I did the allspice. I'm just going to do a few of those cloves. And again, just because I have it, I'm going to add some mustard seeds, whole mustard seeds, not ground mustard. And we're going to tie this up to drop in our brine as we make it. Now, I like to do my brine with 2 parts of apple cider vinegar to 1 part water. So I'm going to do 2 cups of apple cider vinegar, 1 cup of water. I'm going to do a 1/4 cup of Demerara sugar. Now, Demerara sugar is just sugar that's still from sugar cane. It's just had a lot less processing done to it, so it still holds on to a lot of its micronutrients and molasses. You can substitute white sugar or brown sugar. I would probably substitute brown sugar over the white sugar. And then we're going to drop our little bouquet in there. We're going to bring this to a boil. Once we come to a boil, you want to reduce this to about medium low and just let this simmer for 15 minutes. Now, if you've watched my video on pickled pickles, then I might be a little bit repetitive here, but just bear with me. Some people haven't seen that video. So let me tell you a little bit about my jars and why I choose these jars. These are called nesting jars because, hello, they nest. And so, especially when you have limited space and you live on a boat or in some place with a small space, anytime that you can take up less space is important. Number 2 is our boat refrigerator doors have small doors, and these fit perfectly in my refrigerator door. So that's why I choose these 2 jars. Now, if I'm doing these for the refrigerator and not canning them, I prefer these white lids over this because after about 6 months, this starts getting a bit funky in the refrigerator. So I try to not use that. And if I do can them, when I pop them, then I put them in the fridge. I prefer these white lids. And vinegar. You can use white vinegar. I prefer cider vinegar. I just like it better. Now, if you spent money on this vinegar with the mother in it, that is so, so good for you. Do not cook it. Once you put it in there and get it hot, you kill all of that good stuff. And again, if you watched on pickles, what I do is I will leave a little space, and once this cools down, then I add some of this apple cider vinegar with the mother in there, because why not? It's super good for you and it's super good for your gut. So we're going to put that in there. So I don't know if you're going to find a lot of pickled beet recipes that have fresh ginger. I love ginger. You know, it reduces your blood pressure. It's anti-inflammatory, anti-antioxidant. So I just kind of feel like if I can sneak it in something, then I'm going to sneak it in something. And did you know that ginger increases serotonin and dopamine levels, and it can actually help if you have depression or you're anxious, even post-traumatic stress. Ginger helps stomach upset. It's such an amazing thing to eat. And have a little ginger every day, because why wouldn't you? So again, if I can sneak it in something and just let that absorb into those beets as they sit, then I think why not? But again, the fresh ginger, it's optional. Now, another thing that's optional is a little bit of onion. I like a little red onion in mine. And I get the red because I just want to put a little onion in here. And then I like pickled red onions. So I will use the rest of the onion for pickling them. So I just like to cut them pole to pole and slice them so you have nice little rings. And again, not a lot. I just want a few going through my beets. I don't want it to be overwhelmingly onion. So I checked them at 30 minutes and I gave them about 5 more minutes, and now I think they're perfect. I'm going in with, there's a little bit of resistance. So I'm going to pull them out. I'm going to let them cool enough to peel them. So these are still a little bit warm, and I'm gently peeling them. Now, some people like to run them under cold water and rub the skin off, but I kind of feel like I like to roast them in the skin because there's so many nutrients in the skin, and I think that kind of just soaks all in, and I don't want to wash it off. So I'm just going to gently peel these, and you can see how easy the skin just peels right off when you roast them. And now that you have your beets peeled, comes decision making time. Now, most of the beets that you see in the store that are canned are cut in circles, or I have this fancy little knife here, and when I was doing my country club days back in the 90s, we like to make our crew today fancy, so you could do like a crinkle cut. But I like to do just a good old bite-sized piece, because then I can just pull them out of the jar and eat them and not have to then cut them again. So I'm going to choose that way. I might even do some with my little crinkle cutter here. Brings back memories. So you get your beets cut, and then we're going to put them in with our onions and mix them up and get them in our jars. Now I have enough for 3 jars here, and if you can hear that extremely loud noise, I apologize. He is in the engine room drilling something important. So I'm going to go ahead and we'll finish these off, and then I will make a half a batch of brine for this other jar. So we're going to add our brine, and I'm going to leave some space to add my cider vinegar with the mother in it. And yeah, my brine was just about perfect for 2 jars, overshot on the beets a little bit. So I'm going to let these come to room temperature before I add that little bit of apple cider vinegar with the mother, and then it's just that easy. So I'm just going to take this spatula and run it down, and this helps release any air bubbles that might be trapped in there. And since these are ready, we'll go ahead and finish off. And I'm just going to put a tablespoon of this good healthy apple cider vinegar in here. Top them off. I'll add just a little more, make sure that one gets topped off. And as soon as they're completely at room temperature, don't put these in the refrigerator until they're completely at room temperature, because you will find bad things happen. So make sure they are completely cool to room temperature before you pop these in the refrigerator. And there you have beautiful homemade pickled beets. Now you do have to wait 2 to 4 days, and that's the hard part. And I always find I can't wait a whole 4 days before I try them. But they're so good. And once they soak up all that beautiful flavor that we put in there, they're so better. Good for you, good for your gut, good for your health, and delicious. Up to 6. So don't worry, my hands won't stay red for long. But now, how quick and easy was that? Again, just make sure they're cool to room temperature before you put them in the refrigerator. Try to wait 2 days before you break into them, and take fresh beets home with you. It doesn't take long to make this beautiful product that can sit in your refrigerator for up to 6 months. So thanks for being with me today. Hope that you find some fresh beets and make some pickled beets. And until next time, safe cruising.